Okay, good morning, Internet. And welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. I'm Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching, and with me, as always, is our marketing director, Jen Waybauer. Good morning, Jen.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And our guest this week is the newest loan originator at the Colorado Real Estate Finance Group, the mortgage brokerage that I own, Brian Bartony. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Adam.
How are you?
I am excellent.
Cool. So, for those of you that are certainly in our inner circle, you know that Brian has been with us for about a month now. But
Okay.
we wanted Brian to bring what would be a relatively unique taste of his own breed of lead generation. And I'm going to let Brian give you an idea of what his background is and how he got into mortgages and those kinds of things. But Brian, if I'm not mistaken, you basically spent a decade driving things at the South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce, which gave you a very unique insight into networking as a lead generation platform. So, why don't you take us back in time and tell us how that started and what you picked up from that environment? And obviously, that was a long time ago that it started because you were there a long time. But give us some insight as to what
Okay.
that looked like for you, what's probably now 15 years ago.
So when I first started in the chamber, I didn't even really know what a chamber was. And so I was working for a company named Info USA,
That
and they just doing
environment, and
chambers.
obviously that was a
Well,
long
I just
time
went
ago that
in
it
and
started
I
because you
fell in
were
love
there
with
a
this place. And
long time.
I found my passion. I became a professional connector. People actually would pay me to connect them to other people. So what started out as initially of networking really took it to the next step and became connecting. And the difference is a networker is going to walk into a room and say, who can I find that needs to buy my stuff? Whereas a connector walks into a room and says, how can I find somebody else to help? So it's a different mindset. And the one thing that I love doing is I love connecting people together. I really do. And I believe in the Zig Ziglar principle. You can have anything in life you want if you can help enough people achieve what they want. So the chamber taught me really how to enhance relationships, how to sit down and understand what's important to other people, who are they looking to connect to, and then how can I be that conduit? How can I be that connection that can help somebody no matter what their career is? I want to know good people. I want to surround myself with good people, and I want the people I know to know each other. So I did that for 10 years. That's kind of where we met as well in that environment. It was a great difference, and what an amazing opportunity to just get to know people and figure out ways to help them with whatever they need.
Okay. And tell us about how you got involved in the chamber. How did you start there?
So, as I mentioned, that Info just joined. I was the general manager at a company in Info USA, and I had a team of sales reps. And so Info just joined chambers. So I assigned one rep to the Aurora Chamber, and one rep I assigned to the Denver Chamber, one rep I assigned to at the time was called Greenwood Village Chamber. And then for some reason, I just chose to check it out, the South Metro. I walked in there and I fell in love with it. So I was actually a member for about a year. And then the opportunity ended at Info USA. And so I walked up to the then CEO, who was John Brackney, and said, "Hey, I want to work for you." And we had an interview right at a business after hours. And next thing you know, I worked there, and I had a variety of roles. And um, like I said, I felt what a great opportunity. I met everybody, and I met from the most incredible entrepreneur to some of the most dynamic CEOs and presidents of universities and elected officials. I knew a lot of local elected officials and um, uh, people in a congressional caucus in Washington and stuff. So it's just an opportunity to get to know so many amazing people. And it's amazing how small Denver can be once you start connecting the dots.
Yeah, that's very true. Um,
Yeah.
and for those of you watching, bear with us. We've kind of changed our format a little bit back to shooting this from our office rather than my home office. I see that Di had told us we were having some audio issues. Hopefully she'll chime back in here and let us know that that's working once we've made some adjustments here. Hopefully that'll be the case. But tell us about, in the interim, tell us about your transition into mortgages. How did that
Sure.
appeal to you? Why was that the next logical step?
So the chamber went through some changes, and leadership changed. And when leadership changed, the direction of the chamber changed. I was responsible for managing our enterprise level business partners. So I dealt with a lot of larger companies and a lot of people in the C-suite. Well, the new chamber president did not want to go that route. He wanted a small suburban chamber of commerce, which is his right. He's the president. So I lost the passion because I wasn't as relevant because all the relationships I had formed were in the senior level executive position. And once I became less and less relevant to that crowd because we stopped doing those type of senior level events, I just lost my passion. And I had a friend of mine who's been in the mortgage world. He's been doing it for 20 plus years. He's an expert at his craft. So I started talking to him, and he's making a lot of money. So I started talking to him. And then, one of the ways that I decided is I talked to a lot of people that I knew. And, I had a lot of relationships. I still have a lot of relationships that I met at the chamber. So I would sit down with them and I said, what do you think about this? And they all said, oh, you'd be great at it. So I decided that it was time for a change. I had gone through some other life changing things. It's time for a change. So I said, well, let's give this thing a shot. And here I am.
Okay. So you've been originating loans for about 3 years now, I believe?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think translates over? What did you put into your bag of tricks from the chamber that you're able to take into your loan origination?
This right here. Trust.
That's
So
good. For
that
those of
is
you
one.
watching, I'm laughing because I've seen Brian's office, obviously, and I know where these things are hiding.
Um, so the thing is one of the things when you're helping somebody, the one thing I get to do is I tell people I fund dreams. And so when you're in the environment of helping somebody with the largest investment of their life, they need to trust you. You need to be, and I'm grateful to all the people that have referred me and connected me, and I know it's all a relationship based. I'm in a referral business, okay? I can't just pick up the phone and start dialing numbers and saying, hey, do you need a mortgage? Hey, do you need a mortgage? No, our business comes from referrals, and that referral has to be from somebody that trusts me. And so that is the biggest thing the from the chamber world to here that is the same. In the chamber world, you develop relationships. As a loan officer, it's all about relationships, and you want to do the best job you can so that that process, which is a stressful process, somebody's buying a home. When I was working with some of the people at the chamber, they would consult with me and say, hey, listen, we're trying to accomplish this, or we're trying to accomplish that. So what I do is I bring people together and say, all right, let's solve the problem. That's what I do here. And so that's one of the biggest things that I think is the same from that environment to here.
Okay. So, and what you're alluding to essentially is this trust factor where somebody referring business to you or somebody wanting to do business with you. And for those of you that are familiar with the Just the Tips coaching platform and the clients, leads, and advocates space, we're talking about leads and advocates at this particular point. You're talking about an arena where people know that you have a genuine interest in their well-being, their success, that you're watching out for their best interests, that you're in an arena where you want to build a client for life type of environment, and we won't talk about the extreme opposite of what that platform looks like, but it rhymes with Quicken, where they just want to move files through red stamp, green stamp. Yeah, we can do it. No, we can't do it, kind of thing. That kind of mentality that earns that trust is really what pays dividends for you in the long run, because it's all you have to do is worry about taking care of everybody else, and the rest falls into place.
Yep.
Okay. So, what are you working on these days as far as lead gen? I know you're doing a bunch of your networking still. You're obviously adopting some just the tips ideas when it comes to contact database and contact management. But where are you seeing your successes? Where do those opportunities arise for you these days?
So since I made the change and came over to the core team, what a great reason to pick up the phone and see how somebody's doing. Okay, hey, guess what? I'm now in a whole different world. Now I'm in a broker world. Now I can do this. I can solve more problems. I can help more people. I can do this. I can do that. How are you doing? So I average about 12 to 15 coffee meetings, and yes, I have a cup of coffee at each one of those a week. And
That's a
I
lot.
try to make at least 50 touches calling people, find out how are you doing? What's going on in your world? Last time we talked, this was happening. Is this still happening or not? And it's just wonderful being able to reconnect with people. Other ways that I do it, I belong to a couple networking groups. I belong to Master Networks, and which is a group I run, and I also belong to Infinity Networking Group, and so those are two networking type events that I go to. Believe it or not, since I've left the chamber, I don't go to too many business after hours anymore. After doing that 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years, it's just, yeah, I can do it, but it's been, I don't know, there's other ways to find people and then going to a business after hours or something like that.
Well,
Um,
but hang on, because you did it for a long, long time. That doesn't
yeah,
necessarily mean that it isn't valuable activity for the right real estate agent, the right loan originator, the right
absolutely.
car sales guy, whatever the case may be. Do you still think that there are activities that go on in that our audience might benefit from?
Absolutely. Let me share some ideas about how to approach a networking event. There's a lot of people do it wrong. First of all, nobody goes to a networking event to buy something. Nobody, what, regardless of what you're selling, nobody's there to buy what you have. Okay? People go to a networking event strictly to develop a relationship, get to know somebody a little bit. And it's the start of a relationship. You're going to have a 2-minute conversation to determine is there enough synergy that we should continue this and get to know each other better. So what people do, there's a lot of people go to networking and they do it wrong. First of all, again, no one is there to buy your stuff. So if you're there just pushing cards, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, people are not going to want to be around you. So the first thing you need to know is that number one, there's probably somebody in that room, unless you do something very unique, that is also selling what you sell. So if you're that transaction, that's all it is, trying to sell here, take my card, take my card, take my card. That is not the right approach. What I used to, coach people when they were going into networking that didn't do it. You want to have, if you get away with having a discussion with 4 or 5 people, that's a solid, real good discussion that leads to something, that's a success. Okay. But if you're just going in there grabbing hundreds and hundreds of business cards, well, why? What are you going to do with them? You're going to just start spamming them to death? What? Why? What is your objective? So some of the other things that people can do first of all, if you're going to a networking event, one thing is find out who's hosting the event and maybe reach out to that person. Say, hey, I'm going to be here. I wanted to introduce myself. I would love to know you're obviously hosting this. If you could introduce me to some of the connectors in the room, some of the people that actually know what's going on that can introduce me. Okay, I'm not going to sell them stuff. And don't lead with buy my stuff. Here's a card. Can we try to get to know each other? But go talk to that person. Get there a little bit early. Wear a name tag, get a plastic name tag, wear it on the right side of your chest. When people shake their hands, they can see you. Don't use one of those sticky things that you write your name on. Look professional. Have business cards, okay? When you do meet with somebody, take some notes, something, find something, bring, because you're going to talk to this person a week from now and say, hey, it was nice meeting you at this event. Can we have a cup of coffee? Can we get to know each other a little bit better? And bring something, so that they remember you. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking about your kid's soccer game or whatever. Bring it back so they go, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but again, no, everyone is there not to buy. So people are there because they want to get to know people. So absolutely, it doesn't matter if you are a real estate professional or even a CEO. People need to connect. People need other people on their team. And all you're doing is this is just a test. Is there enough connection that we should continue? And sometimes there isn't, and that's okay too.
So, just like everything else, make contacts, build relationships. Eventually, relationships, the ones you want to build and maintain, turn into friendships. Friends turn into clients. No different than any other significant relationship building activity. We're just talking about doing it where the kickoff, the toehold, is a networking event.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that makes good sense. All right, so let's not necessarily fast forward, but let's talk about what 2020 looks like for Brian. What do you see your lead gen activities developing into? What blossoms a little more than it has for you in the past? What activities are you going to eliminate, if any? Tell us what the next couple of years look like for you and your lead
Sure.
gen type stuff.
So 2020 is going to be a big year for me. It's fortunately we're working together now, and you as an expert on helping people do lead generation, I think it's just going to in take me through the stratosphere. I have a lot of things that I'm going to accomplish in 2020. I have a lot of goals that I will accomplish. So it's a different model. Some of the things that I'm going to start looking into a little bit is helping people maybe work with, like offering some sort of instruction on how people should network and how you should be more of a connector than a networker, and just helping people, because again, if you're not doing it right, it can hurt you. So that's going to be a new part of the plan in 2020, is I want to start coaching people on how to do this a little bit better. um, the big thing is it's keeping up to date with people you haven't talked to in a while. Constantly reaching out. Not, if you haven't talked to them in 6 months, what a great reason to pick up the phone. So that's something that I'm going to be enhancing, and just finding out what's going on in people's lives. So, um, well, 2020 is going to be a really good year. Um, but that's just, you know, it is work. You have to work on it every day. And although I enjoy talking to people, so that helps, but it is work. You have to put in the time. You have to pick up the phone. You have to devote time to, um, if you're going to do email marketing, well, then you've got to write the content. If you're going to do social marketing, you've got to do the videos. But you have to constantly do it, and then it just gets easier the more you do it. So
Yeah, it becomes regimented. I do want to back up a little bit because there is um, a concept, a theory that Brian alluded to, and I want to drill it down to a little bit more specific, tangible activity for you guys that are watching. And I remember picking up this data from another fantastic coach here local, a guy by the name of Brian Hurt. And if you guys are able to connect with Brian, then good for you. That'll pay dividends. But Brian taught me about a concept probably 15 years ago called net weaving, where your mindset of approaching networking events is more about helping the other people at the event in their business than helping yourself and your business. And obviously, we all know through the grand scope that doing things come back to you tenfold, etc. And it's certainly true in your business model. But yeah, it was Brian that taught me this concept of net weaving versus networking when we specifically talk about networking events. And I think his MO was or what he taught me was something to the effect of when you go to a networking event, really connect with a couple of people, just two, and figure out what it is they do, how you can help them with their business, and then spend the rest of the networking event meeting other people and trying to connect them with one of those first two people that you really sought out to netweave for, as it were. And I thought that that was really a cool concept, and I think that it plays really well to what Brian Bartony is telling us here today. So yeah, if your mindset is a little different about networking events, then you can do things that will help you build relationships. And if you go into a networking event and you start finding somebody else business, they're never going to forget that. You're going to build that trust. You're going to have that kind of relationship. We all know those kinds of things come back to you full circle. So yeah, I thought that the mentality of how to approach networking events should be different than what we had always believed them to be. How about that?
Absolutely.
All right.
I mean, and another thing, even take it up a level. Have a list of your top resources so that when you're sitting down with somebody and you say, what do you need? And they go, I need a CPA. You just take your list out and go, okay, you should call this person. Or, everyone needs something. Everyone needs something as either a strategic partner or they need a problem solved. And if you have handy, and I have it, I mean, I carry a list. I actually have a list, both sides of these are the true trusted people that I have. And I know tons of people, but these are the people that I have worked with, that other people that I've given referrals to, where the people have done business and I know they're trustworthy and they do what they're going to say. So when you have that resource already, so when somebody says, now the other way is just how you talked about it. You're sitting there, you meet somebody, and then you're searching for somebody. Imagine if you brought the solution and introduced them together. You're a hero, and nobody's doing it. So all of a sudden, you want to stand out a little bit. Everyone's been to 100 networking events, and everyone's just trying to push cards and do their thing. Well, look at it. Try it a little different. See what happens. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, all because of a change in mindset. Really, that's all that there is to it. And don't get me wrong, there are obviously lots of tools and techniques and tactics that go into how the specific activities get exercised once you've adopted a different mindset for networking activity, networking events. But yeah, the bottom line is that mindset first, activity second. Of course, if you guys want to talk more about what those specific techniques and tactics are, reach out to me, reach out to Brian. I'll make sure that Jen puts his contact information in the comments of the live video so that you guys can reach out to him, and we're going to make him give you his contact information as well. And yeah, let's spend a couple of minutes on Brian. So Brian is the newest addition here at the Colorado Real Estate Finance Group. Obviously, I've known Brian for a long, long time from back in chamber days. In addition to that, and Brian, maybe you ought to touch on it, you and I have both been long-term volunteers at the Department of Defense, the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. Again, just a phenomenal way to give back. Why don't you give us a little bit of feedback about what you've done with the ESGR over the years?
So on the employer support of Guard and Reserve, the ESGR is a liaison, for those that don't know, between service members in predominantly Guard and Reserve and their community business, their job. And we are actually formed because of we no longer have a draft. So because we have an entire volunteer military, if somebody goes away or is deployed or is in training, that job needs to be there. So what we do is we are that connection between the employer and their employee, and we solve problems. Okay, now what my role is, I am what they call the boss lift coordinator. And as in a boss lift is what I do is I put business and community leaders on military aircraft or bring them to military units so that they can appreciate what our service members are doing, and they'll hire more guardsmen and reservists because they're trustworthy, they're drug-free, they're trained in leadership, they get the job done. So I get the honor of bringing people and putting them on a Black Hawk helicopter or putting them on a C-130 or some other, thing so that they can really appreciate what our service members do. So I've been, I don't know, we've been doing that for at least a decade, at least. And it's just a great opportunity to give back. Because unfortunately I wasn't able to serve, so this is my way of serving.
Mindset. That's another big aspect of mindset, and we'll get into volunteer activities and those kinds of things in a future episode, guys. I promise. But that is really, really important stuff. And then, of course, there's one more really important piece. You and I share a birthday.
We do.
It's actually really cool stuff, and we've shared the same birthday my entire life. I'm just a hair younger than you are, old man.
Yeah.
But actually, there was a really cool episode. You and I did a boss lift together down to Colorado Springs, out to the bombing range. Rode around in a Target Mat V vehicle while the jets were firing blanks at us on our birthday.
Yes.
October of God knows how many years ago, but that was that may have actually been when we discovered we had the same birthday. I can't remember, but
that is right.
That may have been that day. All right, so Brian, because obviously we tag you in this post, it's broadcasting live to your audience as well, and obviously you know full well that you'll have access to the video content after it's done. Tell your audience the best way to reach out to you: phone, fax, email, carrier pigeon. Give us the highlights, your phone number, your website, those kinds of things.
So I do answer my phone. So texting and calling is one of the easiest ways to reach me. My phone number is 720-982-9119. But I'm also able to be reached at brian@corefinancegroup.com. You can go on to corefinancegroup.com and you can also find my contact info there as well.
All right. Jen will put all of that into the comments in the live video as well. Oh, in fact, it looks like she already did. Boy, Jen, you are on top of it this morning for early on a Monday with not enough coffee. All right. So for those of you that have joined us again this week to see what Jen and I are up to and our newest team member at the Colorado Real Estate Finance Group, Brian, is up to, thank you so much for watching. And Brian, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. This has been a long time coming, both in our business worlds and certainly having you as a guest on the show. So we're glad that we were able to do this one this week. And for the rest of you, if you want more information about the show, if you'd like to see past episodes, if you'd like to catch our weekly video blog on a quick tip on something you can do to help you in your lead generation, if you want a copy of my book, Just the Tips, any of this kind of stuff, use that text code scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can text, I see it says text CORE. Because we haven't used this computer in a long time. It is actually text. Jen's laughing at me now because I missed something. You can actually text TIPS, TIPS, to 63566. The text code is the same. Just text TIPS to 63566. I can't believe I've been watching this live stream for 30 minutes and didn't catch that until the end of it. But yes, thank you all for tolerating our audio and video and now copy glitches as we try to swing back into a format where we're able to do this from the office rather than me doing it from home. Other than that, you guys have a great week, and we will see you next Monday. Brian, stay put. We'll talk to you shortly.
Sounds good.